I just got back from Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
3 days. Hang on, I got a little bite here.
Yeah.
All right, that's a snag. So I'll just lift over it and set her back down. Um, I am nervous
Yeah.
about the nationwide race. I feel like Democrats are probably going to take the House, but it could very well be oh, here's a hit. Oh, I missed him. Okay, sorry. Could be a super narrow majority.
Mm.
Even with a narrow majority, that's really significant because it determines who holds the gavel
Right.
on January 6th of 2025.
Right.
And you don't want Mike Johnson holding that gavel. And we saw the last time around that he was the kind of the intellectual heft behind the Stop the Steal movement. He was coming up with the legal theories, spearheading some of the litigation, getting Republican members of Congress to, there's a bite, Republican members of Congress to file lawsuits and sign on to amicus briefs. So if he is actually, come on, take it.
Yeah.
Little nibbles. These. There he is. Oh, I missed him. Sorry. Yeah, if he's presiding over the House, technically, you could say there's limited damage he can do because the vice president presides over the electoral count.
Yeah.
But that joint session of Congress takes place in the House of Representatives, and he's the presiding officer. So he makes the House available. He calls the House into session. Mm-hmm. He is the one who, there's lots of ways he could make mischief. And there's another scenario that worries me because we've got a lot of states with Republican election officials positioning to either delay or challenge voting results. Georgia's like ground zero for that. They have figured out that there's a December deadline for submitting electors for the Electoral College. If they extend past that deadline and the Electoral College can't produce 270 electors for one winner and there's not a winner, the election goes to the House of Representatives.
Yeah.
This is what happened with Rutherford B. Hayes, like in the 1870s, I think. So Mike Johnson presiding over the selection of the next president of the United States is a pretty scary thing. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's any way to eliminate the chance for mischief, but I would far rather have Hakeem Jeffries holding the gavel than Mike Johnson. If you look at the averages, they're just tight. They're just really, really tight. And, when an election has so much at stake, and when you know that Trump is going to dispute the outcome if he loses, it makes for a pretty scary situation.
Do you think even if Democrats squeak out a win in November, like you see a rough couple months ahead?
Yeah, the transition is going to be really uncertain and probably divisive, maybe even dangerous. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which is just it's a terrible place for our country. I never could have imagined that we would not all honor the peaceful transfer of power, that we would accept the will of the voters. So we're in a dark place. Mm-hmm. We've never seen anything quite like this. So I won't like that, of course, but if that's the outcome of the actual process, you have to honor it and find a way to resolve our differences going forward. I don't like it at all, but you just can't contest the outcome of valid elections.
Right. And then the other issue, though, was Biden, and I would imagine that was
painful but necessary.
But scarier, riskier kind of.
In a sense, I guess politically it's risky if I'm wrong and Biden wins,
Yeah.
then I've pissed off the Democratic Party establishment, and
Right.
then it's time to get my resume ready.
But you couldn't be sure at that time that everyone was gonna start saying that same message. I don't think, right? I mean, you were out ahead of it enough.
I was even beyond what you saw publicly. I was really working it behind the scenes with my colleagues and in other ways, and it's because I was looking into the abyss, you know, just a little bit like the people of France did in the early summer, when the crazy Le Pen people, the fascists, looked like they were going to win the national election, and the first round went their way. It was a sobering moment, a wake-up call for France, and within a few weeks, the politics changed 180 degrees in France.
Right.
So I believed, just sort of looking at that debate performance, at all of the structural problems with the polling, and just the way Biden's age and physical condition were paralyzing our ability to win, that we had to have a fundamental course correction.
So you got to the point where you weren't too worried, perhaps.
No, to me, the cost of not stepping up,
right,
but losing the election and maybe our democracy was far greater than me being a pariah politically.
And you still are, you're still certain that was the right thing for him to step.
Oh, no doubt about it. Yeah, no, it was absolutely the right thing.
I guess you being right twice makes one worry about kind of some of the dire predictions that what comes next. So.
Well, I'm not saying we're going to lose. I still think we win.
Yeah.
But it's going to be painfully close.
Yeah.
And there's no guarantee.
Right.
Well, one, because these idiots were dumb enough to publish it.
Yeah.
So you don't have to take Democrats' word for it or my word for it. Look it up. It's all right there.
Right.
And the second is, people have seen Donald Trump during the 4 years of his presidency. They've heard the things that he continues to say on the campaign trail. So instantly they know, of course, this is his plan. This is written by all of his inside sources. It aligns with all the things that he's either tried to do or is saying he's going to do. So there's no believability gap. It's just sort of obvious.
Right.
And that's why he's had a hard time distancing himself from it. It's just not plausible. It's dramatically different. If we have a Harris-Walsh administration, then I'm working closely with them on, big, bold climate actions and further progress. If we have a Trump administration, it's just all defense.
I see. And defense of democracy, not just
of democracy and all of the rotten policies, that they will try to advance. I've seen that before. I've been in that situation against a Trump administration.
Yeah.
I know the kind of folks that he would put, at Secretary of Interior, Secretary of EPA.
Yeah.
And I know the agenda, and it's really bad.
Right.
In fact, David Bernhardt, he's kind of one of the evil geniuses on their side. But there are others that, would do it. It would be somebody that probably has either worked in the fossil fuel industry or had fossil fuel industry clients, because that is pretty much the entire agenda for environmental policy.
I guess it's a bit hypothetical.
Yeah, it's totally hypothetical because, honestly, I wouldn't be interested in just anything. I think at this point in my career, I can be a little bit choosy. Here comes a fish.
Okay.
Oh, I missed him. But if someone, wanted to talk to me about the Interior Secretary, I would take the call.
Right.
At the same time, I've got a great friend in Deb Haaland, and
right. Sure.
That's her job as long as she wants it. As far as I'm concerned, she's doing great. We've got a very fluid situation at the Natural Resource Committee because our current ranking member, who is a great friend, an ally, Raul Grijalva, is struggling to recover from cancer.
Right.
And I hope he's able to be back at 100%, and we'll see where that takes us. But I'm certainly interested in it, and we got to kind of see how a few things play out. We've seen what Republicans struggled to work with in this Congress, where they had only a 4 or 5 person majority. Now, they are deeply divided, and they fight like ferrets in a phone booth.
Yeah, for sure.
So Democrats are more functional. We are more united in our values and our desire for government to work. So, Nancy Pelosi showed what you can do with a really small majority.
Right.
But I would certainly prefer that my friend Hakeem Jeffries, as the next speaker, have a little more buffer.
Right. And I'm going to ask this one, and then I'm going to try and put this recorder somewhere so I can pass it.
Yeah, I want you to get in on this bigger fish than my first one, certainly.
Keep the tension on it.
Yep.
There's that otter out there.
There he is. Oh, that's a bigger fish.
Yeah.
That's better. This is good. And that tiny little rod really makes it feel like you're bringing in a marlin or something.
I was wondering when he showed me that, but
this is. Oh, that's a good fish.
Yeah.
That's a good fish. Steve, 3 pounds. Maybe 2.5.
I don't have pliers. So
That's a good fish. I would hold him by the lip.